What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Brinson. I'm your host. If you're watching with us on YouTube, shout out to everyone who is. Hit that like button. It is Sunday, December 5th. If you're listening to the podcast in audio form, it's probably Monday, December 6th. Week 13. Oof. It was, it wasn't as crazy as we thought it might be. A lot of home dogs, a lot of big spreads, and a lot of blowouts, but there was a plenty of insane action and playoff contenders who may have had their dreams snuffed out with a lightning bolt to the chest, and maybe some people who jumped back into the playoff scene thanks to a missed fourth down conversion. We'll talk about all of that. Ryan Wilson, John Breech, join me. What's up, boys?
It's the holiday season. Do. It sucks to be John Breech.
That is the worst trolling ever. You should be celebrating your team's win. I am thrilled that the Steelers won.
He's
Ryan.
literally wearing a Steelers shirt and a Steelers beanie and like sipping tea.
If you are only listening to audio, you need to go on YouTube and see what Ryan is wearing. Our commenters think he looks like a giant bumblebee, which is quite the understatement.
Yeah, Victor Garcia.
He looks like a yellow Volkswagen Beetle.
Love it.
Wilson looks like drunk, skinny Pittsburgh Santa or something. Like,
I'll take it.
I mean, Breech, you had.
He looks like a Steelers fan.
You deserve
got hammered.
every bit of this.
He looks like a Steelers fan who got hammered at a bar in Aspen, stumbled out, and then passed out in a gutter, but he didn't care because the Steelers won.
So if you're watching on YouTube, the commenters are commenting on my Bumblebee outfit.
A yellow Fiat, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I love it. Here's the thing. And I told
like an extra in like a crisscross music video or something.
Boyenza. So doing a Boston accent's weird. So I got this shirt like 15, 16 years ago, and I made my wife put on the back Casey Hampton's name.
But wait, there's more.
It's reversible, and on the other side, Troy Polamalu.
And you're also wearing a shirt underneath there that's a Steelers celebration shirt, right?
That I bought outside of Heinz Field, probably in 2005. I bet I bought it.
You're currently wearing two Steelers parking lot T-shirts.
No, this is the official merchandise from the Steelers store back in 2005 or whenever it was. But it's been sitting in the back of my closet for at least 14, 15 years. Because I used to wear them on game days. Like 2005 was a Super Bowl run. And I was full yinzing it up back then.
I bought a shirt from Pittsburgh in 2005, except it said F word Cincinnati.
That was the year.
Speaking of clothing material, we're going to give away Brinson Sucks hat or Brinson Sucks toboggan. We need to get to 150 likes, is what I'm told by Debo. We are at 45 out of the gate, like 2 minutes in. So smash that like button. Let's get up there. We'll give one away. Breech is wearing one backwards that's exposing his receding hairline. And you can check that out.
Ouch.
I mean, your hairline's going to recede when your
Tough
number one overall draft pick throws 70 passes.
I'm going to wear it like this so I don't have to look at you guys.
Bends it like his finger breaks and you don't score after halftime against the Chargers.
Well, we're going to talk about that later. You need to rub it in right now.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Anywho, I mean, Breech, I will say, I mean, like you had this coming.
Oh,
like you've been sort of like Breechy peacocking for a couple of weeks in a row.
I didn't expect them to win every game for the rest of the season, guys. Let's be honest.
I mean, look, my picks sucked this week, and the Bengals were one of my best bets, and that's fine.
I picked the Bengals too. By the way, passive-aggressive Breech is gone. Aggressive Wilson is here this week, so enjoy it.
Ironically enough, I was the only one here, and I think at CBS who picked the Steelers to win straight up.
No one cares.
I didn't know whether the dunk button or not there. Like the video if you're watching live, like the video if you're watching later. If you aren't watching on YouTube, you can see all these shenanigans. Tomfoolery. Yes, thank you, Wilson. This tomfoolery, if you will, by going to youtube.com/pick6 or YouTube app on your phone, search for Pick Six Podcast. Subscribe, hit the bell button. You'll get alerts when we go live. And again, 150 likes, we give away one of these hats. Hulk smash. Honeybee sting that like button, as Chase Moore points out. And anyway, Chiefs 22, Broncos 9. My initial reaction to this game is Andy Reid off the bye. Andy Reid off the bye.
Andy Reid off the bye. We're out of sync. It's been a while. It's been a while. We're rusty.
Well, he was 1-3 against the spread off the bye coming into this game. the big story for me here is that the the Chiefs have not given up more than 20 points since week 7. This Chiefs defense stunk early in the year. They moved Chris Jones back inside. They get Melvin Ingram, and they're playing pretty well. Even Daniel Sorensen, who's been a whipping boy for the commentary, as Dan Hansis likes to say, the football cognoscente, had a pick 6. I mean, the Chiefs look pretty good.
I don't know if you guys heard on the telecast. If you didn't, I want you to guess how many career NFL pick 6s Daniel Sorensen had. Did you hear?
I did not hear that.
3.
And Breech doesn't listen to the telecast, so he says 3. Guess. What do you have?
Well, now it seems like it has to be extraordinarily high, so I'll say 5.
Split the difference. He has 4 career pick 6s.
What? How is that possible?
I thought, by the way, in that celebration when he was shaking the football like a trophy with 2 hands, I thought the ball was going to go out of bounds. That would have been the most Daniel Sorensen thing ever. Like he just tossed it out of bounds. But Teddy Bridgewater's not very good, but he's better than Drew. Like Drew Lock didn't even come in. Javonte Williams was awesome, but I think
Javonte Williams is really good.
You're right about the Chiefs defense. I'm still sort of concerned about the offense a little bit.
So I think this is my thing on the AFC, and I think I've been saying this for 2 weeks, but if I haven't, I'm going to reiterate it. The Chiefs and the Patriots seem like the only 2 teams in football, right? Well, maybe the Bucs too. And the Bucs, Packers, Chiefs, Patriots. Chiefs, Patriots, the only 2 teams in the AFC who know who they are. The Chiefs took the first half of the season, realized what wasn't working. They couldn't be this aggressive downfield bombs away because defense had adjusted to them. Their defense wasn't playing well. They made a few alterations to their offensive defense, and now are being patient on offense, running the ball more, are fine in low-scoring games, and actually prefer it because it puts less strain on their defense. And I think it's working out for them. They're an under team who occasionally covers. And
how does that work in January?
I think it works okay unless you run into the Pats who are running the hell out of the ball. But I mean,
yeah.
Well, I mean, and this does feel a little bit like 2019, where they started the season 6-4, and it was, are they actually any good? Is Mahomes having a sophomore slump after winning MVP, even though it was really his junior year, but since he didn't play
and then he got hurt in that,
and then they ended up winning the Super Bowl. And so that feels like we're in that same debate period. Are the Chiefs any good? Well, now their defense is good, but their offense is bad. When earlier in the season, their offense was good and their defense was bad. And eventually we're going to get to week 17 and week 18, and they're both going to be good. And they're going to roll through the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl. And we're all going to be the laughing stock of Kansas City.
So when we just finished week 13, right?
Yes.
Yep. I get confused.
Kind of. After tomorrow.
But when the Chiefs finished week 13, they were in 2019, they're 8-4. They didn't lose again for the rest of the year. And I'm not saying it's the same thing, but what's the Chiefs record right now?
8-4.
Interesting.
Get out of town.
The Pats seem like 2001 and the Chiefs seem like 2019. And Mahomes looks like he did in 2019, where he is in control of the offense and playing better as a quarterback, but the stats aren't there to make him look like this gaudy fantasy MVP type. You know what I'm saying? Like down the stretch in 2019, you're watching him, you're like, man, he's a lot more calm in the pocket. He knows what he's doing in Andy Reid's offense. He's not just whipping it downfield. And whatever adjustment defense is made to, sort of neuter the Chiefs offense is now being adjusted to by Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, where they are taking the underneath stuff, running the football, and that defense is playing better so they can trust it a little bit more. I mean, this team can absolutely win the Super Bowl and this should be a top 2 or 3 favorite. And I hope that you bet them at long odds when we told you to in the podcast.
I will say that the offense this year is a little bit more of a concern, because you look at 2019, they only had one game where they scored 20 or fewer points. And if you take away where the offense put up that many points, and if you take away that pick 6, the offense only scored 15 tonight and 19 against the Cowboys and 13 against the Packers and 20 against. So they have a few games where they've really struggled. And if that dumb crazy punt return where the Chiefs recovered the muffed punt because the Broncos punt returner ran into his own blocker, if they don't recover that, then this game is completely different. So it's just, their offense just is still. I'm not impressed by it yet. I don't know if they can turn it around. I think they can because it's Patrick Mahomes. They have so many weapons, but they haven't shown that they can.
I guess I agree in the sense that they haven't looked like the 2018 Chiefs that we saw in the regular season, but that's okay. Again, to my point about the Pats and the Chiefs, know who you are, embrace who you are, lean into it, accentuate your strengths, like mitigate your weaknesses with how you build a game plan. And that's what the Chiefs are doing right now. And they're winning games. That's all that matters.
Brinson, you sound like my high school guidance counselor. Know who you are.
Well,
embrace who you are.
It sounds cheesy, but that's what Belichick's whole mission statement is when he divides the season into quarters.
By the way, that's why Breech's guidance counselor told him that when he insisted on playing center on the basketball team. No, Breech. Manager, that'll take you far at University of Miami.
You can be left guard
Miami University
of the water bottle.
Yeah, look, the Chiefs aren't scoring a ton of points.
And you know what? Who's the best offense in the AFC? Like, it ain't the Ravens. They've been struggling lately. The Titans have issues.
Is it the Patriots?
It could be the Patriots. The Chargers look good every other week, as Breech tweeted out. On the odd weeks, they're crushing people, or the odd weeks, and then the even weeks they don't show up. So, what day is the Super Bowl? Breech said it, even or an odd week. That could be their best chance.
the both sides of the bracket are going to be crazy. Now,
it's fun though.
Chalky,
I like this much better than Patriots Colts each going 12-0 to start the season, and it's boring.
And the Bills and the Colts are the two highest scoring teams in the AFC right now.
Patriots have the highest scoring offense over the last 6 weeks on the win streak.
And the thing with the Bills, they had 2 blowout wins over 2 terrible teams. I can't remember which teams they were, but it was like 45-0. I think the Dolphins and the Jets or something. Like it was an ass whipping that I don't even know if it counts in terms of total points. Like if you grade on a curve, they beat that 45-0 win was probably like 21-0.
Denver, very quickly. The Chiefs are in a good spot. They're winning that division. I hope everyone bet them to win that division. How many weeks ago? 6, 7, 8 weeks ago when I kept saying to bet it. I'm not allowed to bet it anymore. I'm maxed out on it.
Interesting.
Should have logged into my account, Brinson. My goodness.
I'm maxed in at plus money. It's minus 400 now. I'm okay with that. The Broncos are. I don't know. Okay on defense. They have a lot. They are who we thought they were, I think. Whereas if you dropped Aaron Rodgers onto this roster, which was the rumor du jour in the offseason, they would be one of the best teams in football. But they don't.
Maybe 12-0.
But they don't have the juice. And like Pat Shurmur is a fine play caller. And Vic Fangio doesn't necessarily. He's not aggressive enough on offense. And Teddy B is just not. He's a low ceiling guy. Javonte Williams, unbelievable. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, awesome. No Fant, great.
Yeah, the offense is fine. Teddy is where it starts, but like I think Jeudy had a drop on that last drive. Fant had a drop. Akui Bunam outplayed him. It's hilarious, by the way, that Collinsworth and Al Michaels can't say Alberto's name. Albert Abui Quinn. And Jeudy played okay.
Their defense played an A+ game, the Broncos, and they still lost by 13. So that tells you all you need to know about the offense.
The interceptions were hard to watch. They were hard to stomach on a day that we saw some pretty terrible interceptions, and that might have been like some of those throws were worse than like the arm punt that we saw Lamar Dalton throw or the actual Dalton throw in that Chicago game.
At the end of the day, with the Broncos currently sitting at they're 12th right now. Man, the AFC is wild. The Pats are number 1 at 8-4, and the Broncos are 12th at 6-6.
And by the way, coming into this game, they were 8th. The Broncos were. So had they found a way to win, they would have. I think they wouldn't have been in the playoffs, but they'd have been, percentage points closer. I don't think they would have replaced the Bengals. Had
they won, the Chiefs would be out, and the Chargers would have been up at 4. It would have been a whole thing.
The Broncos had won, the Chiefs would be out.
No, after in the playoff picture right now, if the Broncos had won this game, the Chargers, already have a win. So the Chargers would be 7-5. The Chiefs would have been 7-5. Chiefs would have dropped to 8th.
Ooh.
Yeah, it would have been crazy.
Saucy.
But it didn't happen.
Broncos get the Lions next week at home.
Not a guaranteed win anymore.
At home.
Minshew Mania.
At Raiders day after Christmas. At Chargers. Chiefs at home. They have to win their next 2 games at home.
Well, one of them against the Bengals, so they're not.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But the Broncos are probably, they have an uphill climb to the playoffs. Probably not going to make it, but
yeah, it's so uphill that they have to actually walk backwards, like on the ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you have to beat the Lions, who we'll get to in a minute as well.
They have to do a 360 on a squirrel wheel while it's moving, or hamster wheel.
You want to do a 180, not a 360.
No, the hamster wheel goes this way, so you got to go all the way back and come back to the front. That's my point. Walking on the ceiling, you can do a 180, but you'll be stuck.
On a difficulty level.
Yeah, right.
I thought you were saying turn things around. I was like, no. They're doesn't turn you around. It gets you back.
You said they have an uphill climb, and I said they basically have to walk on the ceilings. How high it is up.
They got to do a 720 on a whatever
popsicle stick.
There you go. Sure. Lions, the aforementioned Lions, 29.
What?
Vikings 27. They got their first win. That was tough to watch at the end.
And it was almost sort of a replay of the way the first Vikings game played out when they kicked that field goal.
Jared Goff threw a game-winning touchdown as time expired to Amon St. Brown. Amon St. Brown, sorry. Man, it was on multiple text threads where people were like, I can't watch the Lions lose this. Like Dan Campbell needs a win. And frankly, I was like kind of cheering for him. I was
yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, there are two. Our private Slack thread with us two and Debo. There was a string where Brinson goes, "Poor Lions," and then like 10 minutes later, me with a completely different scenario, "Poor Lions," and we're just writing "Poor Lions" because we're all witnessing completely different things that are happening. I mean, if you look at before that touchdown drive, the 2 possessions before it, you had Goff throwing a horrible interception when they were driving down to kind of ice the game. They were in Minnesota territory. Yeah. Then the next possession, they have a 4th down and 1 at their own 28. And Dan Campbell decides to go for it, even though if he fails, Minnesota's already in field goal range. And not only do they fail, but Jared Goff fumbles it. And then the Vikings score a touchdown with 1:50 left. And we always talk about clock management. And, we always say, hey, Kirk Cousins put up these great numbers. Where did he mess up? He messed up big time on this clock management. And then obviously that final possession, the Lions got the ball and Jared Goff drove them 75 yards for a touchdown. And he threw for 80 yards in that drive, even though it was a 75-yard drive.
So here's the thing on that. I had no issue with Dan Campbell going for it on the 4th and 1. I think it was from their own 28. But you got to run the ball. You can't do some rollout.
I think it was 4th and 2, but I could be wrong. But
4th and short, whatever it was, let me double check. I got the notes here.
It was on their. I think it was 4th and 2 on their own 30. Did you say 34? I mean, it was not like midfieldish. And as you pointed out in our Slack, Wilson, the analytics said to go for it.
Yeah, so it was 4:08 left on the clock, 4th and 1 from their own 29-yard line. They were up 23-21. Their win probability, according to the telecast at the time, was 56.2% for going for it, 8 points higher than punting in that situation, which made it, 48% or whatever. And the strip sack, as Breech mentioned, just run the ball. It was 4th and 1. Just run the ball at the middle. You can get a yard. I have no issue with going for it there. The play call was suspect. And then, you mentioned that terrible interception that Goff threw. By the way, the other thing that we didn't really touch on, the Vikings had that touchdown drive. And, Dan Campbell, I would imagine, probably thought about letting the Vikings score at some point, but they never did. So when the Lions got the ball back with 1:18 to go, their win probability had gone down to 17%, and they somehow won it.
Well, they got the ball back with 1:50 left, and so when the Vikings were trailing 23-21, they drove down, they scored a touchdown. They had a 3rd and 2 at the Lions' 11-yard line with 2:48 left. And that's when they snapped it. If Kirk Cousins they had, I think, 8 or 9 seconds left on the play clock when he snapped it. If he had let 5 more seconds go off the clock, then they would have gotten to the 2-minute warning following their next play, which was either...
He gave them a free timeout.
Yes, essentially. And so if that doesn't happen, then the Lions ended up getting the ball after this touchdown with 1:50 left. They would have gotten the ball with 40 seconds left, with 1:10 left and no timeout. So, obviously it's possible the Lions still win, but losing 40 seconds when your touchdown came on the final play of the game with 0 seconds is kind of a big deal. And those are like the little clock things that you would think a veteran quarterback would be aware of. But
he did jam his hands up his right guard's butt last week. So
that is true. So that's 2 weeks in a row of just making a bonehead mistake.
And the reality is they should have lost to the Lions twice.
Yeah.
And the Lions could conceivably have four. What are you making a face for? He made a 56-yard field goal.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Lions taking the lead at the end of that game was just as improbable as the Vikings winning it in the first meeting. Like, I wouldn't say the Lions should have won that game. The Lions never should have gotten that go-ahead touchdown. Like, it felt like the Vikings should have won that game.
Does Zimmer last?
The first one.
Don't worry about it. Breech is just bitter. Does Zimmer last to the end of the season? That's a question from
They were up 16-9 and they were running out the clock, and then they fumbled it. If they don't fumble it, they just run out the clock and win.
Well, yeah, but you know what? You could say that every single week.
There was something stupid they did in that game, the Vikings.
There's a lot of stupid things they did.
They do stupid stuff every game.
Here's the problem with the Vikings. They have, what is it? They're how many games is it? 9 games have gone down to the it's week 1, week 2, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 8, week 9, week 11, and week 13. 9 games have come down to the not a one-score outcome, the final play. That's insane. You cannot trust that team.
Here's another fun fact. They had 5 first-half drives that all went into Detroit territory. Here's how they ended. Punt, field goal, fumble, punt, and downs. And the downs was on intentional grounding at the end of the first half on Kirby Cousins' throw. So
I was kind of shocked to look at the numbers because I felt like watching the game that the Lions were in not control, but it felt like an upset the whole time.
It felt like if you look at DVOA, which measures every single play and compares it to the other team, that the Lions played better than the Vikings.
Yes. But then you look at the numbers, you're like, actually, the Vikings are probably better. But
the Lions always find a way to, as Breech has sort of alluded to, shoot themselves in the foot in the last 5 to 7 minutes. And this was no different. They just got out Lions by the Vikings.
Then they surgically repaired their foot using the medical tape they borrowed from Minnesota.
Duct tape.
That's how they do it. Duct tape, yes.
We talked about this last week, but this is the whole problem with the Vikings and why you can't trust them.
All right, well, Breech is making excuses for Mike Zimmer, but every week he has the excuse. Well, this really weird thing happened. I'm just wondering, is he a guy that sticks around?
If you're the team that gets involved in weird games every single week, you're not going to make a deep run of the playoffs. I don't think Mike Zimmer gets, if they, what are they, 1 game out? Yeah, 1 game out of the playoffs. They got the Bears twice.
They might as well be 10 games out of the playoffs.
No, I don't know about that. If you lose the Lions, it's bad. But
I'll put it in terms of my other sort of analysis.
Debo's got their schedule up on YouTube. Wilson, they're playing your Steelers in their next game in 4 days.
Thursday night.
With 2, and they've struggled against the Bears late in season a lot over the past few years, especially Kirby. What's the best case scenario for them in their final 5 games? Versus Pittsburgh, at Chicago, versus the Rams, at Packers, versus the Bears.
Let's see. Good Lord.
1.
I think that's best case.
Who's the 4th win?
The Rams.
Oy.
I don't think they beat the Packers in Green Bay. But the Rams game is at home. Day after Christmas.
Well, here's the thing, Breech. Let's say they go 4-1. That gets them to 9 wins. I don't know if that's enough, is it?
I mean, that's a great question.
So, and here's the other thing. We keep talking about the weird things that happen to Zimmer every week. I'll put it in terms of my other analogy that I like to put out there. Do weird things happen every week to Bill Belichick?
No, they don't.
John Harbaugh. I mean, Andy Reid.
And that's the thing too, is it's if you've got to play the Packers and the Rams, like they're just going to beat you by a lot. And then you have to you're going to be involved in weird situations with the Bears. You're going to split one of those. And that's Vikings are still right there. They're in the hunt or whatever, but I'm not enthusiastic about backing the Vikings in any remote sense. Let's get to the Steelers and the Ravens. Steelers 20, Ravens 19. Big Ben.
Here we go. You heard the Steelers song?
It's the volume on this is incredibly low. It's hilarious.
I had the button.
This is an old man trying to use technology.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It was fun for a second.
In a nutshell.
I avoided the copyright.
I threw you a bone in the dunk. Look, Breech and I talked about this on early odds. When there's a rumor,
was Breech crying when he said these words?
Tears were everywhere.
I actually made fun of his dad twice on the.
His dad was the only positive thing to come out of Sunday.
That's how well we got. Brinson was just throwing haymakers.
When you have a situation where there's a rumor leaked out involving Big Ben that is like blatantly, obviously, or just it's obviously coming from Big Ben.
Exactly.
As was the Big Ben's telling teammates privately he's going to retire. So okay, well, yeah, we get it. Ben leaked that. You bet on the Steelers because Ben is going to show up, and Ben showed up, and he was the ball to Deontay Johnson deep down, should have been an easy touchdown.
It wasn't easy, but he should have caught it. And look, here's the thing about Deontay Johnson. He had 18 drops last year. Legitimately, he had one drop this season coming into that game. I think he was tied for fewest drops in the league. Now, he had that drop, but he came back. He still had a huge game. Last year, he was so bad. He got benched at times. That Bills game on national television was hard to watch. He had 15 drops, it felt like. But you're right. Big Ben played well. Deontay Johnson carried them. Najee Harris played pretty well. And I don't know where you want to start. I don't want to go right to the 2-point conversion, but you can sort of set it up.
Start from the very beginning.
Well, I mean, John Harbaugh decided it, which is you don't really ever see NFL teams do this. College teams do this all the time where they're on the road, and the Ravens are favorites. So you're on the road, you go for 2 to end the game rather than going to overtime.
Like baseball.
Well, and Harbaugh had said that because they lost Marlon Humphrey, he just felt like the Steelers were going to be able to dice him up. So he felt like they had a better chance of getting the game over in the regulation rather than taking it to overtime.
They had 4 cornerbacks down. Marlon Humphrey got hurt on the final Deontay Johnson touchdown where he tried to punch it out. And it looked like he hurt his arm, but the report was his shoulder, whatever it was. He wasn't out there. But here's the thing. If you're John Harbaugh and you have Lamar Jackson, who didn't play great, but he's still Lamar Jackson, you're telling me you're worried about Big Ben marching down the field and beating you? That's sort of embarrassing.
Ravens defense didn't play.
They're playing Big Ben, who last week threw the ball 45 times and 44 times threw it to the Bengals.
He only threw it 45 times last week. I thought it was 70.
I don't know. I'm just making up numbers to make Breech feel good before I have to reverse.
I think Harbaugh was worried that if it went to overtime, that he watched his offense play for 4 quarters, and besides for that 4th quarter drive, they really didn't do anything.
But again, Breech, you saw Big Ben. You watched him very closely last week, and you've seen him for most of this season. What part of this season scares you if you have Lamar Jackson on your team? You're basically saying, I trust Big Ben.
All right, well, let me ask you this. If you ask just somebody who had never watched football or knows the rules of football, who did not watch a single NFL game all season, and their first game was this game, you asked them which offense played better after 3.5 quarters, who do you think they're going to say?
That's like saying, are the Lions better than the Vikings? Yeah, the Lions
right, but this is Harbaugh's deciding this right now for just an overtime. It doesn't matter what happened earlier in the season. He's got to decide, man, I don't know if my team's better in overtime.
Well, let me put it to you this way. I hear what you're saying. Now you've gone from being the number 1 seed in the division to being the 3rd seed in the division. So no home field advantage. You might catch Tennessee. You may not catch New England. You may have to try to jump for all Kansas City if they stay hot. So
you have the second hardest schedule of any team in the NFL.
Right. I mean, listen, you have Justin Tucker. All you need to do is win the coin toss, go 30 yards, and kick a 50-yard field goal. The game's over. I mean, what are we talking about?
No, because you have to score a touchdown to end it on in overtime.
Oh, assuming, of course, that
the biggest winner of this win was Chris Boswell because he had the absolutely worst shanked extra point.
You know what, though? I was thinking
in the history of kicking.
Here's the thing. He's the second best kicker in the NFL, and he kicked a 53-yarder earlier in the game when it was 7-3 for what felt like 45 minutes. If he made that extra point to make it, I think it would have made it a 3-point game at that point. No, it would have made it. It would have tied it at 10. It would have tied the game. That's right.
Yeah,
it would have tied it. If he had made that, Tomlin doesn't go for the touchdown at the end of the game. I'm 100% sure that he settles for a field goal. So that actually proved to be beneficial, and maybe he missed it so bad as to remove all doubt that Tomlin needs to go for that touchdown there because they mismanaged the clock as well. You talked about the Kirk Cousins at the end there. They had a great drive at the end of the regulation. They could have taken a little more time off the clock. There were a couple of times, at least one time where Ben snapped the ball with 20 seconds to go in that final regulation drive. Still, I mean, to your point, Chris Boswell also kicked the ensuing kickoff out of bounds, so they got the ball to 40. And I think that's
kindergarten level mistake that only the Panthers.
Here's the thing:
Super Bowl against the Patriots.
I don't know, but I've seen enough Steelers games to have an idea that Tomlin or whomever told him to kick it short and make them run it out. Kick the ball out of the freaking end zone. Let them start at the 25. Don't get cute, because Boswell can kick into the stands, and he kicked it about the goal line, and he sort of pushed it, and then it went sideways. Ooh. I don't think that was Boswell's fault.
Ooh, I was about to look this up. Good job, Devo. The Ravens, -1. You can see this on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. We're trying to give away a hat. We're not really getting there. We got enough people watching. If you're watching, hit the like button. We're trying to give you a free hat.
Hey, tell your friends to come look at the Bumblebee and then hit the like
hashtag.
Button.
Yeah. By the way, this is a completely unsolicited plug, but if you haven't seen the new South Park post-COVID thing or post-pandemic on Paramount Plus, Breech pointed out the other night. I've watched it 3 times since then. It's it's unbelievable. It's hilarious.
Was it funnier? Was it funnier than the Bengals Chargers game?
Oh, we missed.
Depends on your sense of humor, Wilson. It depends on your sense of humor.
It was a lot funnier because I had the Bengals as a best bet.
Ooh.
I don't know where I was going after that. Oh, I was going to say the AFC North. Yeah. I don't know how I would bet this.
I would say with the Browns at +750 and the Steelers at +16, I would take any value I can get in this division, because the Ravens have not scored more than 20 points in 4 straight weeks. Like, their offense has been completely dysfunctional. I don't think you can trust them to win the division. So I would literally take any plus team. I would take the field over the Ravens at this point.
The field, yes. Can you do the field? Can you push the button to do the field odd, or is that not odds, or is that not?
Well, you can literally. Well,
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I would bet on the Bengals, Browns, and Steelers, and as long as one of them won the division, you would profit.
I know how it works. I wanted to see what the actual odds were.
I don't necessarily think that is completely true, but
which one?
That's
what I just said.
Well, if you bet $50 on all 3 of those, and
you would profit no matter if one of those 3 teams won.
Well, no, that's
yes,
not
you
right.
would. Yes, you would.
You sure about that?
Because the worst case would be the Bengals. Bet 100 because the math is easier. You'd win 230. You lose 100 on the Browns, 100 on the Steelers, so you make 30.
Yeah. So you'd win $30. Right.
But if the Browns or Steelers won, you'd win even more money.
Why don't you just bet $1 million on each team then?
Well, you could, Wilson, if you had $3 million to bet.
And then the Ravens will win. That's the problem. That's called gambling.
The Ravens are 8-4. Cincy 7-5. Pittsburgh 6-5-1, and Cleveland is 6-6.
How are the Browns in last?
And the Browns and Ravens are tied for the most difficult remaining schedule in the NFL.
I can't believe I have to say this again, but I think you should bet the Bengals. Oh my God!
You don't know which team's going to show up.
Cut it, and put it on Twitter. Oh my God!
No heels.
You do not know which team is going to show up, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and Burrow's finger is a
problem.
Yeah, that's a concern.
But with the Ravens, when is their offense going to show up? We haven't seen their offense. It's been a month. I mean, when do you start saying maybe the offense can't figure things out? It has been a month. They have since November 11th against the Dolphins. They have scored 10 points, 16 points, 16 points, 19 points. They have not even hit the 20-point mark.
And here's the thing: this Steelers defense sucks. A lot of people were hurt. They got Cam Hayward back. He wasn't going to play. Thank God. TJ Watt
too. They were worried Watt might play.
Watt passed the COVID test twice. He had 3.5 sacks. He now has 16 on the season. I think he's tied with James Harrison for most in a season for a Steelers player ever, which is mind-boggling how good he is. But that's still no excuse. Like, you have Lamar Jackson, you have those playmakers. I know some guys went down with injuries, but the Steelers team got smoked. Like, it wasn't even close. And as you mentioned, Big Ben needs to leak stuff every week. I don't think it's going to work against Kirby Cousins. He's,
what does he leak ahead of Thursday? He's like, Ben. Oh, I know. He could leak out. He's like, Ben planning a evangelist church tour in off season after he retires.
No, Ben is going to leak that Mike Tomlin's going to retire.
Ooh.
And
Ben's going to take over if they don't win out.
Right. But you know what's funny? Looking at the Steelers schedule, like, what do you think for both of these teams? I mean, you look at their final 5 games. I feel like Pittsburgh's are a little bit easier just because they have.
Tell you what, Breech. You know what?
What?
That is a perfect topical discussion for the playoff picture we're going to do a little later in the show. So why don't we take a break? And after the break, let's see if I can look at the rundown. Oh, I know. We'll talk about Justin Herbert.
Ooh.
Oh, we missed.
It's your birthday. Not for real. Just for play.
So the Bengals and the Chargers played.
You know what the irony of you going to break what that clip is that it's the perfect segue because that clip is from a Chargers-Bengals game
last year. A close.
It has finally come full circle. We can retire it. Bye.
No, I don't think so. It was a close game last year. It was last year, week 1. The
Chargers won 16-13, and that was a field goal by Bullock with just like a couple minutes left that would have tied the game.
This year was not as close. Chargers 41, Bengals 22. This game was insane because the Chargers got up, I believe, 24-0.
It was 24-0 in the first half, and I made the joke when it was 24-0 that even Joe Brady's having a better day than the Bengals, and Joe Brady got fired on Sunday.
And then notice Wilson did not mention the game another time the rest of the day because I feel like he was worried about the reverse jinx he was trying to pull. And the
on the Joe Mixon fumble run back, I put into Slack where we chat to each other. Super Chargers.
Oh yeah, I forgot. So you went 2 hours of silence and then weighed in.
Sort of like the Bengals.
Actually, let me ask you this, Breech. At what point did Joe Burrow? I don't know if he broke it or dislocated it. His right pinky finger is like twisted sideways. Was it the third quarter or the second quarter?
He said the first series.
That's not true.
After the game, that's what he said. That's what our buddy.
Joe Burrow said that?
Yeah, that's what buddy Paul Dana wrote on The Athletic.
Wait, really?
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't have mentioned on the broadcast of any.
I don't think they knew because he didn't start flexing until after it was, I think, 24-0. Or maybe they just come back, but it was.
They didn't show the clips with him having it taped up until the second quarter.
Right.
So maybe he banged it up on the first series and it progressively got worse. He got hit or something.
Right. I think that's
because
it was
after
right.
No, it was after his 9-yard rushing touchdown. He went to the sideline. Or maybe it wasn't. It was after his rushing touchdown. And then he went to the sideline and it was like they did a replay of did he actually get hurt there or what happened? They couldn't figure out how it happened. So his rushing touchdown came with 2:40 left in the second quarter. So that's when everyone knew there was a possible injury.
Yeah. Wow. Great job by our buddy Dana, because it was, and I thought Ian Eagle and the whole NFL and CBS crew did a great job of focusing in on that, like getting camera shots of his finger pointing out to the side.
He wasn't making faces about it until
like late. Yeah, it was weird. I had no idea he heard it in the first series.
No one did.
What's that?
No one did. I think it was sort of a surprise.
This is from Dana, who friend of the podcast, great read at theathletic.com. Joe Burrow tried everything to figure out how to handle the growing pain in the pinky finger. He said he dislocated on the first series of the game, noticing it, quote, looked a little funny, end quote, coming off the field. Interesting. And then it got progressively worse. The tweet here, which is from some jabroni who looks like a dork, me. It doesn't even really do it justice. It looks like he's like if you saw the one that was like with his hands down, it was like Torrey Holt style sideways. It looked really, really painful.
And they showed clips of him trying to throw on the sideline, and he was grimacing every time he threw the ball. And at that point, I was like, is he going to be? Is he even going to be able to come out and play the second half? And then he did. And
yeah, aside from the long-term issues with this pinky situation, Joe Burrow is tough as nails. I want to respect for Joe Burrow, but I have concerns about him Carson Wentzing himself.
That's the thing. How tough is too tough, Breech? I mean, Baker Mayfield's incredibly tough. Joe Burrow didn't hurt the team with some of his throws, but you could see that he wasn't peak Joe Burrow. So at any point, did you think, and he got sacked 6 or 7 times again on Sunday. Some of that's his fault, some of it's not, but this isn't sustainable. It feels like is what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, I mean, there's smart tough and there's dumb tough. Smart tough is like, if someone picked a fight with you, you could take them, but like you don't go pick a fight with Conor McGregor or Mike Tyson. That's dumb tough. Like, oh, I've just beat up anyone I want. When really, and like he got hit a bunch in this game. He got sacked 6 times, and it seems like every week we talk about he is taking too many hits. And I was telling Brinson on the Week 14 preview podcast that it is definitely a concern. And the concern here is that the Bengals were playing without 2 of their starting offensive linemen. And, that was a big worry going in the season was if their offensive line couldn't hold up. And they've been playing pretty well during the season, but they do not have enough depth to be down 2 starters. And so if they're going to be down a few offensive linemen, Joe Burrow's going to be taking even more hits. And so he's got to be smarter about it because you can't, especially if you're injured. So if Joe Burrow, if you get injured, the season's over. So, he's just got to be smarter.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say he got strip sacked on the first series.
Which, by the way, that was the third time in 4 games the Bengals have turned the ball over on their first possession.
It got worse because the next series, Jamar Chase basically batted the ball to Mike
walking
Davis
in the end zone.
That was going to be a touchdown. It was like at the plus 40, and I don't know what he did. Had another drop later. So, he doesn't struggle with drops, and he was sort of joking about the preseason stuff.
And that one right there, instead of 9-7, now it's 16-0.
Right. Yep.
Chargers, by credit to them, man, Justin Herbert, the way they got to 24-0, that dude was slinging lasers. He was sort of back.
Austin Eckler needs to walk around the facility with the ball in his hand and quit dropping.
Glued to his hand.
Jeez, oh pizza, man. He almost lost that game for them because the Bengals had opportunities, and it wasn't Joe Burrow's fault. They mistakes by other guys, but 2 fumbles, should have had a third. His knee was down on the first actual one. That could have been a fumble as well. The other 2 were just inexcusable. I know he's upset on the sidelines, but after the first one, quit doing it. I mean, every week you see guys, this isn't Austin Eckler's fault, but you see guys running with the ball loose that gets punched out.
The Shady McCoy special.
Guys reaching for the end zone and the ball gets punched out. That's the most important thing that I think coaches need to be stressing outside of, the actual game plan and stuff.
Chargers are 6, Bengals are 7. What's your 1 out of 10, Breech? What's your confidence level on the Bengals making the playoffs?
Like 6.
That's a real 4.5. So okay.
What is it on the Chargers then?
On the Chargers making the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they still get to play the Texans. They still get to play the Giants. They've got a much more
They can't beat anybody by more than they have 1 win by double digits this year.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that so I'm also not confident about the Chargers.
Now, I guess
they have a much easier schedule, and when you take that into account, I would say it's also a 6.
I was going to say, I don't even know who I would take in a neutral site.
The Chargers have the second easiest schedule, second easiest remaining schedule in the AFC.
So,
Chargers?
The Titans have the first.
Let's assume that these teams, the way it's set up, let's assume they would play the Titans in the first round in Tennessee. Would you rather be the Chargers going to Tennessee, or would you rather be the Bengals going to Tennessee? I don't even know. Just flip a coin.
I think for me, the Bengals thing comes down to this Burrow finger stuff because
the defense is a ton better.
Oh,
they are.
Bengals defense is
Chargers.
I mean, the Bengals, they could lose all 5 of their final games.
Oh, here we go.
Who?
No, my meltdown is they play the
Chargers
49ers.
Or the Bengals?
The
Bengals.
He's turned it.
Oh,
no, I am just saying that any team in the AFC North could. Any team in the AFC North could.
Wait, so just to be clear, you're 6 out of 10 on the Bengals making the playoffs, but it's possible they might go 0-5.
No, I think they're going to go 3-2 and finish 10-7.
Let me take you back to 7 ago.
That's what I actually think is going to happen.
7 days ago, Brinson, when Peacock and Breech couldn't sit still, he was pimping up his Bengals so much, and now he's like they could lose out.
I don't know if y'all watch the chat at all, but
they could lose out.
Someone wrote, "Is Breech losing it?" And
yes is the answer.
Yes is the answer to that poll.
Did you watch this game? Did you see all the injuries? Joe Burrow's pinky. Of course, I'm losing it.
Yeah.
Joey Bosa went out in the first quarter, and
there was an extra point. There was an extra point sequence in this game where the Bengals scored a touchdown.
Oh, right. Forgot about this.
They were going to go for 2, and then they couldn't figure out what they wanted to do, so they called a timeout to go for 2. Then coming out of the timeout, they go back to line up to go for 2. They get called for a delay of game. So now Zach Taylor's like, nope, we can't go for 2 because we got called for delay of game. So they go to kick the extra point, and then Evan McPherson misses the extra point. That was literally the entire Bengals game in a nutshell.
That was awesome. I forgot about that.
Nice to say, Will said Breech is losing.
He is losing. By the way, I think for the first time.
Look at that week 8. You can see it on youtube.com/pick6 and hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. We're trying to give away a free hat that says Brinson sucks on it. Week 8, the Bengals lost to the Jets.
By the way, I believe this was the first time in NFL history at the end of the game, the officials were taking 45 minutes to decide forward momentum, whether it was stopping on Jared Cook. And the referee actually announced to the crowd and to the TV audience, apologies for the delay, as he tried to figure out whether Jared Cook, his momentum had been stopped on what was a third down. So that was probably the highlight for the Bengals. Breach. You actually won that challenge.
All right, let's keep it moving. Seahawks 30, 49ers 23.
They're back.
Nah, they're not.
No, the 49ers are back.
Oh, you're back, dogging my Niners.
And I will say this, someone in the iTunes comments pointed out that this is like probably 3-4 weeks ago, that I hate the 49ers. And I wasn't high on the 49ers because they weren't playing well, and we had some questions about them, and then they turned things around, and I, ate some crow, and then I was all in on the 49ers, and they lost to a guy with 9 fingers.
Well, I think it's probably important to stop, we're seeing wild week-to-week fluctuations on every team in the league.
True that.
Like Breech was shirtless, like prancing around during a podcast 2 weeks ago talking about the Bengals winning the Super Bowl, and now he's not sure if he'll be able to sleep tonight because the Bengals might not make the playoffs.
Sleep ever again.
This is interesting here. If you can see it on the YouTube stream, but Russ is really good this year against the Niners and not good against anybody else. I thought that there were moments where Russ kind of got it back. I'm intrigued by the Seahawks next week, just from a betting perspective, because I thought he seemed to be more comfortable than he had been the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, betting perspective only, because I think the playoffs are well out of the picture.
But one thing you had mentioned on the podcast a week or two ago after one of these Seahawks losses was, Brady Quinn said that he had the same injury and it took him 3 or 4 weeks before he felt right.
Brady had surgery and didn't play again that year because it was so late.
Right.
But his assessment as someone who had the same surgery was it will take Russ a minimum of 6 weeks. And we're right at 6 weeks, to your point.
Right. And that's what, so you don't, eventually Russ was going to look like old Russ. You just didn't know which week it was going to happen. And it's like that switch flipped between Washington and San Francisco. I mean, he wasn't like super Russ against the 49ers, but he was definitely about 10 times better.
It's starting to come around.
Right. Than he had been the prior 3 weeks. And so now you're like, okay, well, the Seahawks can win any game if Super Russ is back. And we're a lot closer to having Super Russ back. And now he gets to play the Texans, in week 14. And so for the 49ers, just horrible because they'd already lost to the Seahawks once. They're coming in thinking this team is horrible. Russell's looked so bad with his surgically repaired finger. And then, the 49ers just shot themselves in both feet, in the hands, in the elbow,
the face.
They gave up a 73-yard fake punt touchdown.
Yeah, that's not really a sustainable approach.
That's shooting yourself in the foot when you fall for a trick play. And
Jimmy Garoppolo had an absolutely atrocious interception.
That interception was really bad. Yes.
So that is sustainable, and we've seen glimpses of that.
That's sustainable. I'm not trying to hype up the 49ers. They did some bad stuff in this game, but the Seahawks, I thought the 49ers outplayed the Seahawks.
Well, here's one of the thing. Here's the thing you have to sort of remember. You have an advantage when you play the Seahawks because Pete Carroll will never, ever, ever go for it on fourth down. So that's already a built-in advantage, and they still got their doors blown off. There was a chance at the end, but I don't know.
But in this game, he actually went for it on fourth down. More of a twist. They didn't know they were going to get back Super Russ, and they didn't know they were going to have Pete Carroll completely change his coaching philosophy for this one game. And they went 2-2 on fourth down.
The Niners went for 6.5 yards per play, and the Seahawks were 4.8. I thought watching the game that it felt like San Francisco could have taken the game over. George Kittle was an animal in this game. 9 catches, 181 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jimmy G 100% made some mistakes. Eli Mitchell got banged up. Look at this Seahawks rushing thing. Travis Homer, 3 carries, 80 yards and a touchdown.
That's pretty good.
73 yards were on a fake punt. Adrian Peterson, 11 carries, 16 yards and a score. And then Rashad Penny had 10 carries for 35 yards. I still think the Seahawks are who we thought they've been for 18 months or so. They're a team that wants to run the ball and play defense, except they don't have a good defense, and they can't really run the ball. Now, they can win games if Russ is playing well, but by and large, I don't think they're good. I think it'll be a problem down the stretch, but they got the Lions and the Texans too to close out.
Yeah, they're not going to be a problem down the stretch. They'll probably regress a little bit, and as you've noted, this season has been bonkers in terms of you don't know which team is going to show up which week. So we all thought the 49ers, I think we all did.
Does a 9-8 Seahawks team make the playoffs?
No. They're not
I don't think it's completely
They're not winning 9 games.
Crazy to say they went out.
It's not crazy.
They play the Texans and Bears line, just like Brinson said, And then they have the Cardinals in the final week of the season. Cardinals might have things wrapped up by then. Benching the starters. And then all they get revenge on the Rams.
What are the odds that they go undefeated? Because it has to be something like 1,000 to 1.
6%.
Those aren't odds. That's the percentage.
I mean, look at
those are odds. Just
schedule is
do percentage odds into a Google it. You'll figure it out. It's odds.
They just gotten one of those wins of the last 3 games coming out of the bye. They are.
They're not doing it. Stop. Their offensive line is still a problem. Their defense is not very good.
They're not very good defense. Had a goal line stand against the 49ers to win the game.
Oh, and that's okay. Never mind. Put him in the Hall of Fame. The running game isn't very good.
They're not Matthew Stafford, Wilson. Come on now.
What would the Seahawks have to be to make the? What would the odds have to be for the Seahawks to make the playoffs for you to bet on it?
Make the odds, and I'll tell you if I'll bet it.
All right, I'll say the Seahawks are 17 to 1 to make the playoffs. You betting?
No.
25.
I'll probably put $2 on that.
I'll put 3.
That's the win 50. I'll do it.
I'm not taking your $5 bet.
I'd bet whatever $25 on 25 to 1.
I was wondering what the number has to be to make it. I mean,
they're not making it.
Those are winnable games.
I mean, if they win out, they'll have 9 wins, and I don't know if that's going to be enough. But they're not winning out.
Well, they've got the head-to-head over the 49ers, who are in the 7th spot right now.
If Russ somehow clicked, like if somehow he got it back, because he was going to get it back at some point. If he got it back today, then they're probably going to go 3-2, worst case, in these games.
And they're going to miss the playoffs.
More than likely. That's why it's 25 to 1. Eagles 33, Jets 18. There's nothing better than getting to the Eagles on the rundown 3/4 of the way through the show. So I can say, Debo, what did you think about this while I go to the bathroom?
Believe in me, I'm fired up about this one.
He's number 2.
Great win, 12-0 all-time versus the Jets. But I just want to say here and now, there is 0 quarterback controversy. Thank you, Gardner Minshew.
I was waiting for it.
Thank you, Gardner Minshew, for beating the Jets. Your work here is hopefully done. We can trade him for a 3rd-round pick now. But what's bothering me, there's this obsession in Philadelphia and maybe some other places around the backup quarterback, really ever since I started rooting for them. And I think it needs to stop. I think it's damaging and it's dumb. I'm getting tired of it. Yes, they won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. He was a backup. It's not always going to be like that. It was incredibly rare and still kind of stunning. It's something I never trade for in the world, but it amplified this issue of just loving these backups, whether it's Coy Detmer, AJ Feely, Jeff Garcia, Mike Vick. That one worked out. Jalen Hurts last year. Just stop obsessing over these backup quarterbacks.
So Debo, Gardner Minshew was 14 of 15 for 188 yards, 2 touchdowns in the first half. Finished 20 of 25, 242, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Threw the ball out on time. Got the offense going. It looked like a different offense. At no point did you say, I wonder how this would look going forward.
I did not say that because, with all due respect, that is easily the worst defense in the league. If Jalen Hurts had the opportunity to play the Jets 13 times this year, I'd say the record's probably 12-1, 11-2 if Jalen Hurts gets to go up against the Jets. And I just think there's this perception with Minshew that he's some kind of gunslinger and he takes these wild chances. And I think that's the furthest thing from the case, not just today, but going back to his time with the Jags. He plays incredibly safe, and that's all they needed against the worst defense in the league. He was smart. He made some decent throws. He underthrew a lot. The offense was in a good position, like the way Nick Sirianni called the game. But it's never at any point in the game was I like, Jalen Hurts couldn't be doing similar things against this Jets defense.
Why are you making a face, Breech?
Just hearing Debo trying to crush down and pour cold water on Minshew Mania just breaks my heart. Debo, you have to embrace Minshew Mania. This is where you say, you know what? Our quarterback, Hurts, can now sit out the bye, and if he needs to sit out another week to let that ankle get to 100%, you have a quarterback in place. You should have your fingers crossed that Gardner Minshew wants to play another game for your team, even though you're trying to kick him out the house after one win.
Devo, don't let this fool troll you. This is nothing more than someone who
you missed the whole thing. Devo,
I don't need it all
name ever again.
You irrationally suggested that every team in the NFL should trade a third-round pick for Gardner Minshew.
And now I feel even more vindicated.
Why?
Because he just won a game 33-18, and he went 20-25 for 242 yards and 2 touchdowns. General manager Breech looks brilliant
Jets.
right now.
Jets haven't beaten anyone.
They
since
beat
week
the
8.
Titans.
Since week 8. Yeah, let's not forget week 8, Brinson. Let's not forget. I think that was the Bengals week. But you're right. I mean,
what I'm saying. Jets haven't beaten anyone except the Bengals
and the Titans.
If Gardner Minshew is in the position where he has to start again, I'm fine with it. But for anyone to suggest, and there's some dumb people in the Philadelphia media that cover this team and talk about this team that are going to try to convince you that there's a controversy. That's for clicks. It's good for business. Don't pay attention to it. We need to get over this obsession with backup quarterbacks. Just because he looks like he could be in Always Sunny and he has sweet celebrations with his dad, or he looks like he could work the grill at like a cheesesteak shop, we don't have to obsess over Gardner Minshew. This guy is not the answer. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is, but there is no quarterback controversy. Stop it.
I hope the Eagles win the Super Bowl this year, but with Minshew.
Oh, we missed.
Debo needs to cut that.
Debo's point did miss. Well, you're right, Brinson.
Debo needs to cut that and put that on YouTube.
Did you pre-script that?
Yeah, he wrote that.
I'm fired up.
Right.
Fired up.
I wrote it down. we can get a hold of Debo in Slack earlier. He's like deep dive editing this rant on Minshew.
Yeah, he's doing a book report. He wore his bow tie and everything. He's fired.
I was looking up Coy Detmer stats earlier to back up my whole thing of backup quarterbacks.
Coy or Ty?
Coy was the around more in Philly. Yeah.
Coy was the backup. Ty they traded to Miami, right?
Ty was around for a little bit, but Coy was the one in the early 2000s that was coming in for Donovan. And,
you need to look up what Andy Reid got for Ty Detmer.
You know what's crazy is that I think 3 weeks ago, the Eagles were 4-6, and Debo felt strongly that they were going to make the playoffs because of how easy the remaining schedule was. And here we are 3 weeks later, and guess who is in the running heading into their bye? Plus, 2 teams ahead of them, Philadelphia or Dallas and Washington, play each other next week, so one of them has to lose.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it, but it's going to come. Washington is playing well, and we'll talk about their game next. But that's a tough team. There's 2 matchups. I feel like it might be a split with Washington, and then we see from there. But it appears to be a 3-team race between Washington, Philly, and San Fran for 2 spots, and that's somewhere where we had the Vikings previously and might be able to knock them out. But I'm feeling good.
Were you tweeting irrationally about 3 NFC East teams making the playoffs earlier? Was that you? I couldn't remember.
I did send out a tweet. There's a chance. They're really. I mean, San Fran falls a little bit. It's just the fact that Washington and Philly have so many division games left. It would take Washington probably beating Dallas once or twice, and then the Eagles taking care of Washington.
Washington has to beat Dallas in order to facilitate a non-Dallas team making the playoff or winning the division. Excuse me. You know what I'm saying? Like if Dallas sweeps Washington, it's over.
Right.
But the odds are interesting. By the way, hit the like button. We're inching towards giving away a freaking hat. Does anybody have a Brinson Sucks hat around? I don't. I gave mine away.
Yeah, Breech does.
Yeah. You want a Brinson Sucks hat? Oh, somebody wants to see Debo. I'll tell you what. We get to 150. We'll give
Debo is a hat. And so the last one we send is also Debo. We send him to you.
Dallas is minus 750 to win the division. Washington plus 675. Eagles 16-1.
No, there's Debo. Look at Debo.
There's Debo.
Like he's on a dating app because Brinson sucks hat on.
That should be your profile on a dating app. Really.
Yeah, that'll go well.
What if the girl's name was Brinson and she's like, that's insulting?
It's true.
I can see
people think my first name is Brinson, by the way.
That's what we call you.
No, I mean,
I think the biggest takeaway, if you're an Eagles fan, is that you should be happy that you have a competent backup quarterback. Because a lot of teams don't.
I think Gardner Minshew could start for a handful of teams in this league for sure, just not this one.
The Bengals.
The other takeaway too is like, what was Urban Meyer doing? I mean,
which time?
If Gardner Minshew was as good as he told us, and he was involved in a quarterback competition with Trevor Lawrence, which is fine. Like if that's true, then that's fine.
It's not.
But then you trade him away for a 6th-round pick. Like, why not hold on to him? It's an asset.
Or he's not an asset. Or don't take snaps away from Trevor Lawrence during the preseason. That's the bigger story.
That would be my move too. But like, I mean, Gardner Minshew's an asset.
Or the Eagles got a steal, and now they got to win because of it. And they have Miles Sanders back, who looked completely competent. And this team feels like a threat down the stretch. And Debo's team might be the last one standing.
You say completely confident? Miles Sanders is awesome.
What just happened there?
I don't know. Breech is doing some sort of weird.
Eagles bought 3,000.
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni did say there's no debate. When Jalen's healthy, he's the starter. So
we're not having this today. It's for what did you say? Cheesesteak flippers or something? Like, yeah, we're not doing that.
It's going to be I'm glad I don't listen to local chatter.
Yeah, but how healthy is healthy? Like, does that have to be 100% healthy? Do you want Gardner Minshew or do you want 90% healthy Jalen Hurts?
And did Miles Sanders get hurt in that game?
At the end, but he seemed okay towards the end of it.
He was running well. So the Eagles it's really weird. Like next week is week 14. It's the Eagles. Maybe you guys already covered this, but Eagles bye, which is crazy. Like that's an insanely late bye.
Play an extra game this season.
No, but I mean, week 14 is really late.
Yeah. Next week is the last week of bye weeks, and they're obviously the last group of them.
As Debo said, the New York Jets have never beaten the Philadelphia Eagles. It is the most wins by one team against another team in NFL history without losing.
That's a fun fact. All right, let's get to the next game. If you're good with that, Debo.
Oh yeah,
he got his speech in. He's good with it.
I'm good. I will say Zach Wilson was pretty decent today. I've heard some things. Haven't watched a ton of Jets, but he was pretty impressive.
There's not enough around him. Elijah Moore is good too.
Yep.
WFT 17, Raiders 15. This game is supposed to be high scoring. It was just kind of gross. Taylor Heineke just kind of finds ways to win. This NFC East thing is interesting because, Washington and Philly are just finding ways to win. They're like scrappy teams that aren't that good, but the Washington hasn't given up. I think hadn't given up more than 25 points in like 5 weeks. Their defense has gone to 180, like the Chiefs. It's crazy.
After Chase Young goes down.
Yeah.
The thing is, like Heineke is. Someone tweeted at me in Breech last week asking if Heineke's really good or like what do we? And I said he's basically Gardner Minshew. He's a better version of Gardner Minshew. He's a guy you don't want starting 17 weeks. He threw a pick six to Trevon Merrick, who dropped a freaking ball on that last drive when it was 15-14, and that game is over. And he got lucky because defensive backs in general struggle to catch the balls. That's why they play defense, as the old saying goes. And instead, they parlayed that into the game-winning field goal with a new kicker because Sly blew a tire out. Breech. Who was the kicker?
Brian Johnson, I believe.
Went to high school with Brian Johnson. You think it was the same guy?
It could have been.
Everyone went to high school with Brian Johnson.
Yeah, no kidding. But anyway, look, it counts. You said they're finding ways to win. That's a way to win. The defensive back drops a pick six that would have sealed the game, and they make the most of it. Also, I'll just mention this quickly: the Hail Mary that Derek Carr threw on like the next to last play or the third to last play, that Zay Jones, oh my God, it was so close. And there's some speculation that maybe it was pass interference. It was close.
I mean, he grabbed his jersey.
He grabbed his jersey.
Ifs, ands, or buts.
You can't throw a DPI flag on a Hail Mary.
No, it wasn't the Hail Mary. It was a long pass with single coverage.
Yeah. It was the one before where
2 or 3 passes before. It was a Hail Mary in the sense that it wasn't the final play of the game, but it was a against all odds sort of throw. But as Breech notes, defensive back did grab the jersey. Not enough, not a lot, but enough. If it got flagged, you'd be like, well, don't grab the jersey. I don't know if it affected on some level. Maybe it affected Zay Jones. The ball still hit him in the hands. And there's the grab right there. If you're watching on YouTube, that's illegal. And the ball would have been at the 10 or 7 yard line or whatever.
And the ball hit Zay Jones right in the chest. And I will say that, like, you're looking up for the ball, and all of a sudden you feel this, like, being pulled backward.
I mean, they're both looking straight up. The ball's dropping down. Like, it's definitely pass interference, but it probably didn't affect the play.
No. Right, but if you feel like you're being pulled backwards, that like affects how you're thinking and how your mechanics, how you're trying to set up.
Yeah, no, that's right. Watch the replay because he almost caught it anyway. So I would imagine if he's out there by himself running, he catches it, and maybe it knocks him off just enough. I'm fine with him not throwing it, but you can't. If you get flagged there, that's on you. It's your fault. Don't grab the jersey.
Yeah, don't grab the jersey. Look. We don't need to go on a big ref rant. I mean, these refs every week It just depends on who you're getting. Like some guys want to have a parade and a show across the field for 60 minutes, and some guys just don't want to throw flags. And there's weird stuff that the league emphasizes, and they don't care about any consistency at all for whatever reason. It's
like I said, I'm fine with the no flag here. This is more on the DB than the referee's decision or no decision to throw the flag. But he would have been angry that the defensive back and Ron Rivera had they thrown the flag, but that is clearly illegal, and it probably has breached or affected Zay Jones' ability to catch that football. Keep your hands to yourself. You're right there. You're in phase. Why put your hands out?
Do you know how many catches Zay Jones had in college? 4 years, played 49 games.
I'm going to guess he had 3 fewer than Breech had during his Division III days, where he led the nation with 4 million catches.
Dunk.
He had 399 catches in college.
Well,
it's 100 catches a year. It's insane. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm like, of course it should have been pass interference. He's grabbing his jersey. He's pulling the receiver away.
It was quick. It wasn't like he pulled him down. You can't do it, but yeah.
These guys just don't get much right. They just don't. It's frustrating.
I'm not going to blame them for the loss. By the way, I was thinking about this during the game when Hunter Renfrow finished with 9 catches on 10 targets for 102 yards. He's a first-round pick. Like, if you're going solely on production and not looking at him, you're going, oh, that guy helps my team every single week. He's unbelievably reliable. He never drops the ball. He can return punts. He does everything you ask him to do. He knows his responsibilities. He is legitimately a first-round pick. Like, put him in Zay Jones's body. He's the best player on planet Earth.
The worst part is the Raiders the same year took Cleveland Farrell, Josh Jacobs, and Jonathan Abrams in the first round. And I guess they also took Max Crosby. But like Crosby and Renfrow are saving that draft class.
Put Crosby in the 4th, Renfrow in the 5th. Those are the 2 best picks.
Yeah.
Jacobs is good, but he's been injured.
If they'd go on Josh Allen, Marquise Brown, and oh my God, the receivers they could have had. The players they could have had there. Deebo Samuel. Could they have AJ? Yeah, AJ Brown. Oh boy, it's terrible. Anyway,
during their winning streak, Washington's also gotten some interesting luck with. They played the Panthers in Cam Newton's first start. Played the Seahawks with Russell Wilson coming off. still not looking like Russell Wilson with his surgically repaired finger. Got the Raiders without Darren Waller. So they just have kind of things, you get luck out. Luck's a big part of football, but they just have these things kind of falling on their plate and they're taking advantage of them. But what's going to happen when they're in a game where they don't have things falling their way?
This is actually a good point by Roger Long in the YouTube chat. Toss that up. He just put it up, Debo. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. We're trying to give away a friggin' Brinson Sucks hat. You'll get it mailed to you. Brinson, don't be naive. No consistency helps the books. It's an unholy alliance. I actually think, I've thought this for a long time. I thought the NFL liked the controversy surrounding the catch rule. And they liked the controversy surrounding the DPI, all these rules, because people get outraged and start talking about the league, even though it's annoying from a rational perspective. But the league likes attention, because the more attention that's being paid to the league, the more people that are watching, etc. Anyway.
By the way, something happened in that game that I saw people complaining about. I didn't see it live, but Unique Ngakoue went low on Logan Thomas and tore his ACL on a block. I put it into Slack. I don't think.
Yeah, I saw Mike Garafolo tweeting about that.
And Garafolo never tweets about things that are negative.
Yeah.
And this was everyone's on the same team in terms of players watching out for each other. And I just watched the replay, and Logan Thomas is sort of pulling on the block, and Unique just goes straight for his knees and tears his ACL on a Antonio Gibson run up the middle. And it doesn't look intentional, but I don't know why you would go low to take out a blocker on a play where you don't need to go low. It's a bad look. Unfortunate for Logan Thomas. I don't think it was dirty, but I don't know what was going through Unique's head when he decided to do that.
He's not a great run defender. I mean, it's oh boy. It's bad. That's.
It's not dirty, but you don't see people. There's no reason to do it.
Wasn't the play almost past him?
Yeah.
There's no reason to do that.
None.
And his season's done. His ACL.
Yeah, towards ACL.
Oh my God, that's bad, man.
Yeah.
Yep. And Logan Thomas is a pretty cool story because he was a quarterback at Va-Tech and then late round pick that Bruce Arians threw a bone to because Bruce Arians went to, as they called it back in the day, VPI. Eventually he lands with Washington, turns into a tight end and becomes a really good player. And
he's in his early 30s now, I believe. So, that's not, you don't want to be trying to come back from that. I mean, you can do it obviously, but your season's done on a team where you're probably needed.
No, that's a good point. That was unnecessary. Dolphins 20, Giants 9. It was not a pretty game. My boy Mike Glennon actually suffered a concussion. They're not sure when it happened. Giants offense, red zone, and play calling and drop passes were a big problem. The Dolphins weren't great in this game, but they found a way to win. I think they had 5 wins in a row.
Yeah,
5 wins
1-7.
Row.
They were 1-7.
Are the Dolphins going to the playoffs?
I will say this, and I said this last.
There's a path to 9 wins.
No, I'm not going to say that, but I will say this, and hopefully not jinx this person. We were down, and I was down in particular on Tua. Tua has looked really good. He's made progress the last 2 weeks, and I'm happy for him because, as I mentioned last week, Miami, the Deshaun Watson stuff, and it's unclear if they wanted him stuff and whether they're going to draft a quarterback this draft stuff last spring, that is. In the last 2 weeks, today, on Sunday, he was 30-41 for 241, not a ton of yards, 6 yards average, but 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And then last week against the Carolina Panthers, 27 of 31 for 230 yards, 7.4 yards per completion, per attempt. Not great, but whatever. 1 touchdown. Again, no interceptions. He's getting better. I mean, that's really all you can ask for your second-year quarterback who looks more comfortable, who's not making silly mistakes, whose arm strength looks better than we gave him credit for. Jalen Waddle's balling out. He got hurt on a play. I have to come up with a name for these plays. Like, he caught the ball, no one touched him. He got up, and smartly, the Giants defender, I think Logan Ryan, punched the ball out, and it was legitimately a fumble. And in the process of him trying to recover the ball, which Jalen Waddle did, I think he tweaked his knee maybe. He came out for a little bit. I don't know if he returned. But again, these are stupid mistakes. Like, I don't understand why on every single loose ball the defense doesn't swarm and pick it up. I don't understand when you're not touched as an offensive player, you either give yourself up or get up and run. It's a whole thing. But anyway, hopefully Jalen Waddle's okay, played well, but the sort of the silly mistakes drive me crazy.
And it's funny you mentioned Logan Ryan because he did say after the game, hey, I can play quarterback too. I'm a lot like Tua. I can throw 2-yard passes to the left. The losing defensive player is making fun of the starting quarterback of the other team, which is kind of funny. Debo just had the stat up there, and I think one key of the Dolphins' winning streak, this 5-game winning streak, they are only giving up 11 points per game during this streak. If you're giving up 11 points per game, you are going to win most of your games. And because the defense has been so good, Tua hasn't been forced to take chances and throw downfield. And he's done that okay because when it happens, the defenders like Logan Ryan, they're so shocked and caught off guard by it. They're like, holy crap, he just threw it more than 10 yards downfield. We weren't ready for that. And so, this is one of those, if the Dolphins fall behind a game 14-0, do you think there's any chance they're coming back? It doesn't feel like they have that kind of offense because Tua's just dinking and dunking. But right now, dinking and dunking is working because their defense is playing so well. And, Tua's getting his feet underneath them and getting more comfortable every week.
And by the way, Breech, you can dink and dunk with Jalen Waddle. You throw him a little shallow cross.
Right, he'll take it to the house.
Or Gesicki catches it one-handed 30 yards down the field, which seems to be his only go-to. Let me ask you guys this. So Miami's 13th at 6-7, won 5 in a row, as we said. Of the teams above them, who wins head-to-head on a neutral field? Miami versus Denver. Who are you taking?
I would currently take Miami.
Breech?
Probably Miami.
Yeah, me too. Miami versus Cleveland.
Miami.
Didn't even hesitate on that one.
My God.
You can't run it. You can't. Miami's run defense is good. They're a pass funnel. Good luck, Baker, with your shoulder.
Probably Miami, but this 5-game winning streak, the Ravens are the only good team they've beaten.
Your next question, Miami.
Vegas.
Miami.
Breech.
Vegas and Miami played earlier this season. Vegas won.
Well, who are you taking?
Earlier in the season.
Probably Miami.
All right. The Colts are the 9th seed.
Colts.
And then the Steelers.
Yeah, probably Miami.
That game would be 2-1.
I do think it's interesting that there are 3 teams who we thought were going to have. Well, no, we thought two of the 3 we thought would have good defenses coming into the year: Miami and Washington. The Chiefs, we didn't know what the hell they'd be.
And it took them 8 weeks to figure it out.
Yeah, but like that's important for down the stretch from a gambling perspective, from a like a fantasy matchup perspective, from a who makes a playoff perspective. If Washington and Miami figured it out, that's a different story. Like Miami was giving up 30 points per game in the first Debo put the graphic up, the first like 20 or first 4 to 6 weeks of the season, and now they're giving out 11. If you're giving about 11 points per game, you're going to win a ton of games. There you go. 8 weeks, 30 points per game. Last 5, 11 per game.
That includes that 45 burger from the Buccaneers. 35 burger from the Bills, 35-0. That was week 2. Those are one of the games I was talking about.
And also Jalen Phillips has turned into a stud.
And the freaking Falcons scored 30 points on them. Think about that.
I know that game feels like
they lost to Jacksonville. How is that possible?
Yeah, they didn't lose to the Jets.
It's in London, right?
They have a 2-point loss to the Falcons, and they lost by a field goal to the Raiders and Jags. If just one of those games had gone the other way.
Now, and we need to get off this stupid game, but I will point out their 5-win streak is against the Texans, Ravens on that Thursday night, Jets, Panthers, Giants. Their bye's coming up, and they have the Jets on the next afterwards. They might not be that good.
No, that's fine, but I mean,
that's a pretty bad run.
Their defense is better, and I think if you're Tua, you can take some positives out of the last month and a half.
Yes, Tua unfairly maligned, playing much better, wasn't given a fair shake. Let's take a break. When we come back, we will sprint through the final 4 games of the slate and do a playoff picture breakdown.
Ooh.
The Cardinals beat the Bears 33-22.
What did the kids say? Put some respect on their name.
We will give you, Breech, you may have 45 seconds to talk about Andy Dalton.
Why do I need 45 seconds to talk about 4 interceptions and I cried each time it happened? Look, Andy Dalton doesn't play for the Bengals anymore. I'm over Andy Dalton. This is like you get called up because your ex wrecked her car and people might think you care, but you don't.
Wow.
So, he dumped Andy Dalton right on.
What's
funny? What's funny is that after because his his second interception,
I don't care. I'm watching every play, but I don't care.
Well, he was driving him down the field, and literally Cole Kmet caught the ball. It was raining, and it slipped out of his hands, and a Cardinals player just took it and ran, and that goes in the books as an interception when it was not his fault at all. And then I'm thinking, I'll be able to defend him on the podcast. And he throws literally the ugliest interception of all time to a defensive lineman in the second half when it was 27-14 and the Bears were driving to cut it to 1 score. So Andy Dalton,
wow.
I don't know what else to say.
Andy Dalton.
I'm off the Dalton train.
Kyler Murray, 11 of 15, which is an insane stat line for a team that scored 33 points, 2 passing touchdowns, also ran 10 times, 59 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Looked very much back. The Cardinals are 10-2. They are a very good football team.
Very good.
They're going
legit MVP in Kyler Murray.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know what we can look at the odds when we do a playoff picture, but probably worth a look in terms of Kyler Murray if he's in the.
And we talked about this last.
Well, let's go to the next game.
Well, quickly, this is Wilson dragging things up, but
that's exactly what I said would happen before the show.
Yeah, 10 seconds. We talked about this last week. Cliff Kingsbury reportedly is working on a new deal that will pay him a lot of moolah.
Yeah. Well, and also before the show or during the show, Brent Venables was hired by Oklahoma. So yeah. Cliff Kingsbury's.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying. I was like, okay, why are you telling me that? Right. That means
Kyler Murray 10-1 is not a bad look.
It's a great look. I mean, much better than Brady at plus 200.
I think
the top 2 I'm out on. I'm not taking Brady or Josh Allen. Aaron Rodgers is plus 650. I like. Mahomes, no. Kyler, I love. And that's it.
Remember when 3 weeks ago when Mahomes was 80-1?
No, it wasn't 80, was it?
I mean, did you watch him play Sunday night? He's not winning it.
Thank you, Breech.
Sure. 8-1.
Cardinals just the
moving along.
Just the third team in NFL history to win their first 7 road games by double digits, joining the 1984 49ers who won a Super Bowl and the 1968 Cowboys.
Look at that.
Well done.
Buccaneers 30, Falcons 17. Tom Brady owns these guys. It's embarrassing.
He did have the worst interception of the day. I say that every week. This was the worst interception of the day. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. Tom Brady 10-0 against the Falcons. Lifetime. Ouch.
That's a good stat too.
The only two quarterbacks who are better. Can you name them? Have you looked at the rundown, the stats?
Andy Dalton and who else?
Oh, we missed! John Elway, 11-0 against the Patriots.
I never would have guessed that.
Luck,
Against the Titans.
Against the Titans, that's correct. Dante Culpepper, also 9-0 against the Lions.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Tom Brady, on average, 334.1 yards per game, 8.5 yards per attempt, 20. Oh, he's so close. 28 touchdowns, 4 interceptions career against the Falcons. If he hadn't thrown that terrible interception, Wilson, it'd be 28-3.
Yeah, 20-10 with 22 seconds to go in the first half, deep in their own end. I don't know why they're throwing the ball.
Should have just nailed it.
Exactly. Marlon Davidson, the second-round pick out of Auburn from a few years ago, makes a one-handed catch on what was supposed to be a screen pass to December Lenny, and he just waltzed into the end zone for the play of the game for the Falcons, and a sad moment and a very good day otherwise for Tom Brady. Big day for Gronk, too. 2 touchdowns. Looked like old Gronk from like 5, 6, 7 years ago. So that's encouraging for the offense. Vita Vea sacked Matt Ryan, I think, 415 times. I mean, that was all with one fewer tooth than he had last week. I thought you were going to say something. That's why I quit talking.
No, I was laughing about the 15 times. And then
Oh, yeah.
I thought the punchline was the tooth thing.
By the way, so, we joked about Big Ben making these announcements and then playing well. Is Matt Ryan, are you coming back if you're Matt Ryan? Do you want to keep playing?
Not for this team.
No, I agree.
How about this? So Aaron Rodgers goes wherever Aaron Rodgers goes. What if Matt Ryan goes to the Packers?
Then Jordan Love will have to sit on the bench.
Actually, that's not a crazy idea.
I don't hate that. I think he would have some, because that offensive line is pretty good.
What if Matt Ryan goes to the Broncos?
Well, and
that's good.
The head coach for the Falcons is Arthur Smith, who replaced Matt LaFleur. So they basically run the same system. They run the same Kyle Shanahan-based system that they ran in Tennessee.
I don't hate it.
That's not a crazy idea. Because there's no way if you're the Packers that you can feel comfortable losing Aaron Rodgers. Let's say you lose in the first round of the playoffs and Rodgers is gone. We've seen Love this year. You can't feel comfortable with it, right?
Well, just one game. I don't know what their plans are. They used the first round pick on him, but I think you'd rather have Matt Ryan next year, for being honest with yourself, right?
You can feel optimistic, but you're not feeling comfortable.
That's fair.
If you put Matt Ryan in that system with, assume offensive line healthy, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, also BC connection, little BC connection there. Some Eagles, Matt Ryan and A.J. Dillon. And Aaron Jones plus Devontae Adams.
Draft a wide receiver. Boom. Now you're cooking with gas.
I don't hate this idea.
Look at that. It's the best thing I've come up with in quite a while, Breech.
It really is. What would you would have to give anything for Matt Ryan in a trade, right? Oh my God! His cap number is hilarious.
Oh,
what do you think his dead cap number is for 2022?
How many more years does he have?
40 million. It's something absurd.
40 million.
Is it 40?
The Falcons do.
Yeah, boy. How many more years does he have left?
2. 40 million than 50.
Maybe he'll maybe he'll redo his deal if it means he can go somewhere like Green Bay,
or agree to do a post June 1 trade where it's still pretty bad.
They're locked with him through 2022 at least. He's not going anywhere.
24.
It was a dumb idea. Ryan's wrong. He didn't think about the salary cap implications.
Oh! Savage.
Worst thing that happened to me today. That's pretty good.
I don't think.
I'm just kidding, Ryan. The salary cap's going up like $30 million.
Yeah, $208 million, I believe, is what the number is for now.
Rams 37, Jaguars 7.
I stupidly bet the Jaguars to cover the plus 13 or whatever it was.
It's idiotic. Jaguars are terrible.
Well, the Rams have struggled, and they got off to it. They stumbled a little bit. Matthew Stafford took a huge hit, had to come out for a snap, I believe, for John Wofford. And he's got to quit taking these hits. We're talking about all these tough quarterbacks. You got to get rid of the ball. It's not sustainable. We said it with Joe Burrow. We talked about Baker Mayfield. Matthew Stafford's in that same boat. He's obviously a better quarterback. He's played longer, but they need him to be out there on the field. Otherwise, they were fine. I mean, the Jaguars are who they are, and that's on me.
26-38, 295, 3 touchdowns, no picks.
Cooper Kupp apparently is pretty good.
Darrell Henderson, who, by the way, played 0 snaps, 24 carries, 121 yards, and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp, 8 catches, 129 yards, and a touch. Van Jefferson finds the end zone. Odell Beckham finds the end zone.
Great catch.
Jaguars are terrible. The Rams should make the playoffs and probably are sort of fine.
Yeah, they're fine. I will say this, like Laquan Treadwell regularly leads the Jaguars in receiving, or is at least among the leaders. That's a problem.
That's a problem. That's a big red flag. All right. That's
Urban Meyer now has more losses at Jacksonville than he did during 7 seasons at Ohio State.
He said he didn't want any of the jobs that are now. He didn't want any of the college jobs that were once open and now gone.
I don't think the college jobs wanted him.
Get out of here, Notre Dame. I mean, you were talking about last week about Notre Dame. What are you talking about?
I'm saying
people are saying
he denied it.
Okay.
Colts 31, Texans 0.
My God
Almighty.
I would not want to be the Chiefs, Chargers, or Ravens and see the Colts in the playoffs.
I thought you were going to say
if I'm any team in the AFC, I am rooting for the Colts to not make the playoffs.
I thought you were going to say I don't want to be the remaining teams on the Texans schedule because they're going to have a win. Like they're going to come out fighting at some point. Nah, they're not.
Texans are done. Texans are done.
No, I think that's right about the Colts because it starts with Jonathan Taylor, Debo's second favorite person on planet Earth after Jalen Hurts. Carson Wentz is holding up his end of the bargain.
Carson Wentz is a homeless man's Alex Smith.
It's working though. I mean, don't ask him to do too much. 16-22, 158 touchdown, no interceptions. And you're playing the Texans. Like the very first series, Tyrod Taylor rolls right and tries to throw the ball out of bounds. It's intercepted. Like
you give the ball to look. This is what you do if you play the Texans. Tennessee. You give the ball to Jonathan Taylor 32 times.
I thought you could say you give the ball to Tyrod Taylor.
No, you just here you go, Jonathan. Here's 30 carries, and we're not going to lose because this team is so miserable. The Texans' offense consisted of Rex Burkhead leading them in rushing, 8 carries, 30 yards.
Yeah,
Davis Mills led them in passing, 6 for 14.
Which, by the way, Tyrod Taylor was so bad in this trash offense that he got benched for Davis Mills.
Coach's decision.
Both of Davis Mills and Tyrod Taylor played fully healthy games and had under 50 yards passing.
They were fully healthy and fully terrible.
That's pretty hard to do. Brandon Cooks, their leading receiver, 38 yards.
That's like impressive when both of your quarterbacks threw for under 50.
This is like going to Thanksgiving or Christmas and playing basketball against your 7-year-old nephew.
I thought you were going to say this is like the Turkey Bowl in the backyard with the relatives, and that's who the Colts ended up playing on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a joke. The Texans are a joke. The Texans are careening into.
Let me ask you this: is David Culley going to get fired? Like, I don't think he should, but sometimes you're just trying to find a scapegoat for what is a mistake that goes well beyond the coaching decisions.
I mean, you have the justification. Hey, man, you got eliminated from the playoffs before the Lions. And that's the biggest twist of the week is that the Houston Texans were the first team eliminated from the NFL playoffs. It was
if I'm David Culley, I'm saying, Mr. Easterby, you were the one that made all these decisions that gave me these players or lack of players.
Counterpoint. Should David Culley get Coach of the Year consideration for winning 2 games with this team?
I wouldn't fire him, but sometimes they try to do this hard reset and there's
I think Culley is a bridge coach till they figure out what happens post Deshaun trade in the offseason. And
I don't know if that's true. I mean, I think he's done as well. Okay, again, I'll come back to it. How many games did Bill Belichick win in with his team? He's going 2-10. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Bill Belichick 4 wins at least.
I think that's hugely optimistic. I think there's a better chance of what was the other odds we set up? That was 25-1. What team was that making the playoffs? 25-1.
At the
beginning of the podcast, whoever that was. Oh God, Breech
just died.
Breech got mad and left.
It was the Bengals. Maybe it's the Bengals. Wait, who was it? It was the who's going to go 5-0 to close out the season?
Oh, right. Like the Seahawks.
Seahawks.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you do this for a living. Is your brain slowly melts away.
There's a better chance the Seahawks making the playoffs than Bill Belichick winning 4 games with Houston. That's what I feel.
No, I would no. Hard disagree.
I mean, it is what it is, and what it is ain't great in Houston in terms of personnel.
Anyway, we spent too long on this.
Just real quick, very, very close. Very close. As long as Carson Wentz doesn't trip coming out of like a duck blind this week, I think we're good for this first round pick.
You think he hunts ducks?
Yeah, he's a huge hunter.
He can't get off on hunting ducks anymore. He's got to hunt like
Massive
downpour.
He might do
but
both.
yeah.
But here's the thing. As we sit here, the Eagles have the 17th pick from the Colts, so they keep winning, and the pick keeps going down.
And the Dolphins keep winning 5 straight. At one point, that was a top 3 pick. I was having dreams of Kayvon Thibodeau or Aiden Hutchinson.
Now it's little sneak peek. They have the 12th pick.
What are the Eagles 3? Is it 3 picks?
The Eagles have the 12th pick, the 13th pick, and the 17th pick. I have them taking a cornerback and Roger McCreary out of Auburn, who I love. N'Kobe Dean, who had them going there. The linebacker from Georgia, who I like a lot. And then Debo talked me into giving them Tyler Linderbaum, the center out of Iowa, and this will come out in the mock draft.
Love it.
So,
we'll do draft order in a minute, but at one point I thought it was going to be 3 in the top 10, and now it's 3 outside. I mean, I'll take 3 first-round picks. Good job, Howie, but
if you get
as sweet as it once looked.
I think you're at 12, 13, and 17.
That's what I said.
I was at 15. Sorry.
I may have 17. Is what it is. You're right.
3 picks in the top 20 of this draft is fine. The Jets are the winners because they got 2 in the top 5 right now.
But here's the other thing. You'd rather be the Eagles, who are that much closer than the Jets, who are going to draft 2 guys and still win. Well, maybe they'll be good next year, but they have a lot more holes.
The Eagles can become a contender. I mean, they're a contender right now, but like you get 3 picks in the top 20 in this draft. You add an edge rusher, a linebacker, an offensive lineman. Like you could really retool your roster.
Saul Gardner-Minshew as a starter. Boom. Done.
Oh, bang. Oh! By the way, hi, Breech.
I know. He just said I'm out.
My internet just cut out. He said that, this is weird. Jamar Chase was bringing him a new router, but he dropped it.
Oh!
All right. Playoff picture. So let's do a little deep dive. Wilson and I'll do a little deep dive here on the playoff picture. We're gonna start. We'll start NFC or AFC.
Let's do NFC because I'm an AFC guy.
Yeah, I'm an NFC guy. So in the NFC, the current teams are Arizona 1 at 10-2, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Dallas, LA, Washington, and San Francisco. Weren't the Eagles in earlier?
They were in, and then the Washington football team won, and they swapped because they swapped picks as well. Because I'll tell you quickly. You may not care, but just for
people might not be wrong. There might be 3. What if there are 3 NFC East teams in the playoffs?
I wasn't lying. I mean,
crazy.
San Fran doesn't have the easiest schedule, but like I said, it comes down to how those divisional matchups in the NFC East play out.
So before the 4 p.m. games ended, the Eagles had the 20th pick because they were in the playoffs, and Washington was 12th, and then they swapped selections based on the Washington win.
So if there are 2 wild cards currently in the NFC who are 6-6. Again, we've come back to the same point we were at 3 or 4 weeks ago, where the top 5 teams are basically in, and I mean, obviously, things could get weird. Washington sweeps Dallas.
That'd get really weird.
Injuries happen, etc. But generally speaking, the top 5 teams are in. So you have X number of teams who are fighting for 2 spots. Obviously, we can eliminate Detroit. I'm going to eliminate Chicago and the Giants. I think
you missed the team down there.
I don't think you can get rid of Seattle quite yet. They're 2 games back in the playoffs and have the Texans and the Lions. So
okay, let's do it this way then. So
if you were do it this way, eliminate anyone you would feel comfortable putting your life on the line for.
Oh my God.
Like you're not eliminating Seattle if it's your life on the line.
Here's what I'm thinking. So you're right. The top 5 appear to be solid. 6 and 7, Washington and San Francisco are fluid, and you can stick with 6 and 7 at Washington and San Francisco, or you can pick 2 others, and your life depends on it. What are you doing? Are you staying with 6 and 7? Or are you picking 2 others, and who are the 2 others? You got to get the 2 others right.
I got to hit a parlay to save my life.
Or Breech is coming over with a very sharp steak knife.
Oh God, I like my.
He's on his way.
All right, so Detroit's out. Obviously, Chicago, New York.
I'm not taking Seattle if my life depends on it. To answer your question,
of course not. Atlanta, Carolina out if my life depends on it. New Orleans 2 right now. So it comes down to 4 teams between Washington.
Taysom Hill has the Joe Burrow hand injury, so who the hell knows how he's going to be?
No, it's Washington, San Francisco, Philly, and Minnesota. I know San Francisco sucked today, but I feel fairly not comfortable with them. They're 6-6. Like,
feel better.
I will trust them more than any of those other teams.
I agree with that. So then the question becomes: Minnesota's out. Forget them. They might win by 100 points on Thursday. I don't care. So it's Philly versus Washington. Philly is a half game behind Washington as we sit here,
and they play each other twice.
Yeah. So you're
just lobbying.
You're playing a game of single chamber Russian roulette at this point.
How lucky can Taylor Heineke remain? Now he's been good, but he's also been lucky. And Debo, do you want Jalen Hurts back ASAP at 90%, as Breech was alluding to after the bye, or do you want to roll with Gardner Minshew at 100% while Jalen gets healthier?
Good timing for the bye. I'd probably roll with Jalen if we're expecting 90%. But it's a good question.
I'll say this. And this is kind of interesting. So the Eagles have completely revamped their offense and have become a run-heavy, like the best rushing team in football, right?
Last week they had a relapse, but prior to that, yes.
Yeah. Washington has. I'm trying to bring up the number of rushing yards they gave up against Las Vegas. 76. Oh my! Washington. In their last, since they turned things around, and they haven't allowed more than 24 points in their last 6 games. 57 rushing yards against Green Bay, very impressive. 83 rushing yards allowed against Denver. It's a Vic Fangio run-heavy scheme. 53 against Tampa Bay. Somehow they allowed 111 to Carolina, but that's Cam. 34 against the Seahawks.
The Cam thing is very interesting, by the way. Because guess what Jalen Hurts is? A better version of Cam.
That's true. That's a good point. I think that is the deciding factor for Washington versus Philly is who wins that, like who wins the battle of that. Like if Philly can run on Washington, then they're in the playoffs. But if Washington stops Philly from running, then I don't think Philly makes it. How confident do you feel about running on Washington, Diva?
I feel like it turns into a series split, and then things get real interesting as we get to the end of the season. Because, like we mentioned, and I'll toss it up now, but Washington plays Dallas twice. Eagles play Dallas one more time, and obviously the Giants again, and have one more game played as they head into their bye week. So here's Washington.
Ooh. I mean, they're all division games, obviously, versus Dallas, at Philly, at Dallas, versus Philly, at Giants. I mean, oh God, this team is. I will take Washington, but only because I had a preconceived bias towards Washington before the season, and I think Ron Rivera's got something cooking right now.
I had Washington too, and I just slept on them after all those losses you see before the bye there. So, they're done.
Look at their points allowed since week 7. They've flicked a switch on defense.
Yeah.
They would get 24 points.
It would have been real interesting if we talked about last week one of these games that Dallas probably should have lost but snuck away with, and they were 7-5 right now. That would make things super interesting in this division.
Real spicy.
I'll take the Eagles, even though I had Washington preseason, just to hop on the Debo bandwagon.
All right, I'll go San Francisco and Washington. Wilson's going San Francisco and Philly.
Yeah.
And Debo is going Philly and Philly. Is that correct?
That's right.
That sounds. You want to add one more? Yeah.
I mean, you're going 2 Phillies, Philly and Philly in the playoffs.
Philly and Philly.
Who's your second team since Breech didn't show up?
I'm
getting worried. Hold on. Breech has been fired and Debo's replaced him. So.
I'm looking forward to driving across the state for a Eagles Tampa Bay Buccaneers wild card matchup. If the Bucs get to 2, Eagles are at 7. That would be fun. But I'll go.
I think that's a bad matchup for the Eagles.
I was going to say, Debo, do you like going to games where there's a chance, a better than average chance that your team loses? You're okay?
No.
Not playoff games.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that. I was thinking about going to if you were a Broncos fan, would you go to that Chiefs-Broncos game, spend all that money, be out late, have to go to work Monday, knowing your team's going to get throttled more than likely. So you would or would not go to Tampa Bay for a playoff game?
I would give it a shot. I mean, there's something to be said about this season where there was limited expectations and making the playoffs feels like a win. And that feels like somewhat of a loser mentality where I would be super upset with a playoff loss. But
all right,
you're already kind of exceeding expectations. It's not a year in which they're the 2 seed and you're playing the 7 seed and a loss there. That would be more tough to swallow.
I mean, my dad invited me to go to NC State at Wake Forest. Like, you want to come play golf? Then we'll go to the NC State game. I was like, nah, I'm good. He's like,
that's only what 2 hours from your house.
It's like 15 minutes from my parents' house. He was like, "Wait, you have something going on?" I was like, "Nah, I just don't want to go watch them lose." And then
yeah. I mean, it's not fun.
Yeah. Hey, hit the like button. We are dangerously close to giving away a hat. There's enough people, I think, in here watching this stream at 1 a.m. that we can give away a hat. So
by the way, you know
that like button.
Sorry, hit the like button. You know who Breech is? Breech is the guy who has to give a presentation at work, and he goes, "I'll be right back." And you look out the window, and he's running down the street because he doesn't want to give the presentation. He is gone. He's just not coming back.
But he's also like, my internet cut out.
Yeah, right.
He told us via the internet that his internet cut out.
Weird.
Yeah. He's like, I heard you guys talking about me on the internet. I'm like, dude, we get it. You just bounced.
He's in the comments.
Yeah, he's Patrick Seeley in the comments. Hit the like button, people. Let's give away a hat. The AFC. The number 1 seed in the AFC. I'm not trying to peacock about the Patriots, but I mean, I wasn't wrong.
They're my team. I had drafted them.
What are you talking about? They're my team.
I drafted them in our Super Bowl team's draft.
But they have Mac Jones, so they can be our team. How about
that? All right, fair enough.
How weird is it, by the way, to be rooting for it's like, I'm rooting for the Patriots.
It's so funny. My buddy, my longtime friend from college, texted me. He grew up in Rhode Island. He lives there now. He's a huge Steelers, Patriots homer, and he always texts me when the Patriots beat the crap out of the Steelers, and it makes me so angry. Like, it's one of the few times I get angry. Today, he texted me at 7:30, 7:15. He said, "Gosh, I hope the Steelers beat the Ravens." I said, "Yeah, because you're a fair weather toolbox, and that makes sense." And then I said, "Also, it's so crazy that I've been rooting so hard for Mac Jones and the Patriots this year because that's not what the Steelers fan does." But yep, here we are.
It's wild. Pats 8-4, number 1 seed in the AFC. And Breech is by the way, Breech is doing the classic thing where you send the chat the second time,
right?
To make it think like it's having a difficult time uploading,
right?
So you're like, oh, I said that 3 or 4 times. I don't know what's happening.
I only hit it once. It went through that many times. Yeah, Grandpa.
Exactly. I've kept hitting resend. Titans 8-4, Ravens 8-4, Chiefs 8-4. So
by the way, I love that Breech becomes Brian Kelly when talking about the internet. I keep hitting the button and it don't work.
Oh, but that Brian Kelly, what are you doing? Put that Victor Garcia comment back up, Devo, just for Breech is pulling a Bengals second half completely gone. To see it. So the Pats, the Titans, the Ravens, and the Chiefs.
This is our private chat dealing with this numbnut.
12 minutes to send it. You can see it on in our Slack if you youtube.com/pick6. We have a good time on there. You can also hit the like button. Oh my God, hit the like button. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please let us give away one of these damn hats. Titans, Ravens, Chiefs, and Patriots, all 8-4 at the top of the AFC. The Bills are 7-4. Obviously, the Bills and the Patriots will play on Monday night. The Chargers 7-5 and the Bengals 7-5. Steelers are just outside at 6-5-1. Can't remember who they tied. Who did they tie with?
The same team that the old Vikings lost to today.
They tied with the Lions. Humiliating. The Colts at 7-6 are probably the most terrifying team. But even the Raiders are 6-6. The Browns are 6-6. I mean, the Broncos are 6-6, and the Dolphins are 6-7.
Well, we just talked about the Dolphins and who we liked better than, and mostly it's Miami, except for the Colts. Like literally everyone, the Dolphins are 13th, and between 8 and 13, the only team that we like better than the Dolphins are the Colts.
I would take If I was like doing a rankings, there's probably 3 NFC teams, or I guess the 5 NFC teams. I'm trying to think how I would slot them. Like,
What do you mean slot them where?
like within the AFC. I mean, there are 12, maybe 13 dangerous AFC teams.
Well, I think the same thing holds. You mentioned the top 5 teams in the NFC feel like quote unquote locks. I think the top 5 teams in the AFC feel like locks, and the Chargers at 6 and Bengals at 7 are the wild cards. So, are there any trades that you want to make between 8 and 8?
Well, the Bills and Pats have to play twice, but I don't think either of them are going to miss.
No, that's right. No, they're fine. Even if the Bills lose both games, they're 7-6. If the Patriots lose both games,
all of a sudden you're 7-6. That's...
Okay, well, if you want to do 5, 6, and 7 in the AFC, you can. I'm taking the top 5 teams as they sit here: the Patriots, Titans, Ravens, Chiefs, and Bills. And I would swap out
the Bills have the Patriots twice and the Buccaneers.
Yeah, no, it's not going to be easy.
I'm suddenly concerned about my win total bet here.
What is the win total?
10.5.
Yeah,
the Jets, Falcons, and Panthers, so they should get to 10. They just got to beat the Pats once.
Well, they lost to the Jags.
I know the Jags loss is kind of stinging in the haunches here.
All right, so how many teams do you want to swap out?
This is like, look at this though. The Broncos are 6-6, and they are 2 games out of and they're 12th in the AFC, and they're 2 games out of the first seed in the AFC.
Well, as Breech mentioned, had they won on Sunday night, they would be in the playoffs, and the Chiefs would be out, which is bonkers. And the Chargers would be number 1 in the AFC West.
I feel very comfortable with New England making the playoffs, Buffalo making the playoffs, and Kansas City making the playoffs. Outside of that, I'm not sure about.
Is there a path for the Colts to win the division?
I don't think so.
7-6 versus 8-4.
But Tennessee has a sweep.
All right, so
they're close enough. So the Colts are also on their bye, which is again is super annoying this late. Then they host the Patriots at the Cardinals, Raiders at home, and at the Jaguars. That's a pretty tough schedule. Like going 3-1 there would be really good, right?
Yeah. Here's what I'm doing. I'm taking the Bengals out of the 7th seed, and I'm putting the Colts in the 7th seed. I'm leaving the Chargers where they are, either 6 or 7, and the Colts and Chargers end up making it for me. That's where I'm going.
And the Titans, by the way, still have the Jaguars at home and the Texans on the road. I know they lost to the Texans, but still, like 2 very winnable games. If they win those 2 games, the Titans will win the division.
So, what are your changes, if any, to the current AFC playoff race?
Man, I think it's a dog. I mean, it's just a dog fight. I would probably say I don't want to toss the Bengals out. I think the top 5 get in. I think the Chargers. I think 2 of 3 between the Chargers, Bengals, and Colts make it. And I might toss out. I think the Colts get in somehow, and I'm not sure between the Chargers and the Bengals who misses.
I agree. And what would be incredibly awesome is if the Colts and the Dolphins end up being those final 2 teams. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
But we just talked about Miami has played a pretty soft schedule, but they have won 5 in a row nonetheless.
Correct. Oh, we have a hat winner. Isn't that lovely?
Is it Breech?
Should we give it away now, Debo?
Let's give it away right now. Let's not wait. Make people
dilly-dallying.
At Goon55 is our winner of the Brinson Sucks hat. Connect with Debo and let him know whether you want to do a poofball hat or a non-poofball hat plus or a cap.
Knit cap or a ball cap.
A knit cap.
As your grandpa would say, a ball cap.
Good news. We're going to do winners and losers quickly because we have no Breech, who is currently fake. He's like, here, let me upload this outage map.
You know how I used to make fun of you? Like you would text me, you're late. You send pictures of traffic that you just have on your phone.
Like you won't believe how bad the traffic is. You're like, that's clearly a lie.
Right. That's off a stock image site. That's Breech with this old nonsense he's pulling.
Yeah, he sent us a map of California. I was like, look at the traffic. It's like, Breech, you said it was an internet issue. What are you talking about? Anywho, you can go first. Who's your winner?
The winner? The old Pittsburgh Steelers, baby. I mean, they're 8th in the playoff race, but Sunday was my Super Bowl. I don't care what happens. I don't care if they lose every game from here on out 55-0. They get double nickeled every week. They beat the Ravens on a last-second play where fun game, and it was sort of fun to watch. Again, this season's been no expectations for me for the Steelers because they're not very good. And this was fun. Lamar Jackson didn't play well. John Harbaugh went for it on 2. Went for 2, excuse me, on the final play of the game. Mark Andrews maybe should have caught that ball. Lamar Jackson maybe should have thrown a little better. Yeah, TJ Watt got in the mix and got in his face. TJ Watt 3.5 sacks. So it was a fun game. Steelers are the winners this week, and this may be the last one of the season. I don't know, but Mike Tomlin's that much closer to keeping that 500 or better record going in year 15, I believe.
I'm sure there are better answers than this, but I don't care. Dan Campbell.
That's a great answer.
I mean, it is December 6th. Dan Campbell won his first game as Lions head coach. And this team's been fighting its face off the entire season.
Let me give you a sad fact. It's fun now, but it was sad at the time. Do you know the last time the Lions won a game, how many days it's been?
364.
You looked at it exactly.
No, I didn't. I knew it. I heard it on the broadcast. But
yeah, that's right. I got it.
They went 364 days between wins as a professional football.
That is it's bananas. BANANAS.
And they lost a bunch of really tough games. And we've joked about Dan Campbell on here. He looks like PC Principal from South Park. He wants to bite ankles.
Kneecaps.
He does a bunch of weird stuff. Is super
I have only talked up Dan Campbell. I think he's great for that organization. I said in the summer, I don't know if he can coach or not, but I think he's a 180, a legit 180, not 360 or 720 from Matt Patricia. And the players seem to buy in. So that's a huge win for them.
I'm team Dan Campbell for life.
Yeah.
Not only has he gotten this team to try hard like crazy and has been emotional in these losses, he also, the team was his first game. Usually you'd be like, all right, game ball, Jared Goff. Fought his way through, did this. He goes, no, he goes, the game ball, we're giving this game ball out for the entire community that lost people in the school shooting last week. And then proceeded to read the names off of the people who died in the school shooting. I'm team Dan Campbell for life.
Yeah,
this guy's unbelievable.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. We have a loser, Breech is sitting a loser in. Loser, my internet. And the Bengals. He also said his winner is Gardner Minshew.
That's just trolling. He's trolling Debo from the beyond. He didn't pay his internet bill, and now he's yelling about Gardner Minshew.
Who's your loser, Wilson?
We should do a GoFundMe for Breech's internet. I'm going to steal Breech's loser. The Bengals.
Oh yeah.
Bengals are down 24-0. Strip sack on the first series. Jamar Chase volleyball set interception on the second series. And by the time it was over, Joe Mixon fumbled for the first time in over 300 days, I believe. Returned for touchdown. Oh, interesting. Our buddy Jordan Tajani, who lives in Nashville and he worked with the CBS.
Great friend of the show. Yeah.
Says his internet is fine.
Wow.
Again, Breech lying.
Boy.
Caught in another lie.
Yeah, this is what Breech gets. This is what Breech gets for lying.
Yeah.
And not like, Jordan, a young CBS writer. Why hadn't Breech called him up and said, like, let's go get beers? Maybe Breech doesn't even live in Nashville. Okay.
Who's your loser?
Oh,
John Breech.
I was looking at the Bengals schedule to make fun of them. They lost the Jets. Oh my God. The Bengals are bad. My loser was going to be the Bengals. So instead, I will pivot to. Actually, I hadn't thought through this whole loser thing.
49ers. Take the 49ers.
No, I'm not going to do that. I'll lose my team. I will say that there's not like any clear losers on this slate.
The Ravens.
I'll say the Raiders. Raiders or Ravens are the only two other ones. Because the Raiders, I feel like when they won those two games, the Raiders too easy. Ravens or Raiders? What do you think?
Ravens. The Ravens were in first place in the division. They go for 2 instead of relying on Justin Tucker. And I know that everyone, Marlon Humphrey's injured. I get all that, but that was a crazy time play.
Actually, yeah, it's clearly the Ravens. They went for 2, didn't get it. They now are 8-4. Opened up the window for the Steelers to get back in the division. Caused you to put on multiple shirts with Steelers gear on it and a toboggan, which signals that you're back in on this, and you might be ready to murder, dunk on Breech if the Steelers win the division somehow.
Oh, please.
And the Ravens are banged. The Ravens don't feel like a team that scares me in the playoffs.
And before Breech quit, he did point out that the offense was struggling for Baltimore.
Several weeks, yeah. And the defense, I mean, they've had a ton of injuries. Harbaugh's a great coach, and Lamar's lethal, but they don't really scare me.
I feel like, in retrospect, yeah, you can say they shouldn't have gone for 2, but I feel like you kick the field goal with Justin Tucker, win the coin toss, and then the worst case, you get a field goal out of
extra point, but yeah. I mean,
right, yeah, extra point.
Yeah, you get the extra point and then go try and win. No, I mean, go for it if you want on the road, whatever. Anyway.
Breech has a loser. His loser is the 49ers, which I tried to talk you into, but you weren't buying it.
Breech didn't get a loser. Breech is the loser. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hope you who won the hat? Debo's talking.
Grant
won the hat.
at Goon55.
Goon55.
Good job, Grant.
I will DM you.
See you guys for the preview on Monday, and of course the recap when we will give away another hat. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. For Wilson and fake internet outrage, John Breech, I'm Brinson.